Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back at about 6:30 Eastern time on a Monday. You know, this is probably going to be Jay and I's last pod for maybe a couple weeks, I think. That sounds about right. I'm getting ready to have a baby, and we're moving, and Jay's buying my house, and he's moving as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in the next couple weeks, so won't have that much spare time. So
but after that, man, we're in the clear.
Possibly a 2 to 3 week hiatus. But don't fear, because we will be back after that. And both of us will have brand new podcast setups at our respected houses.
It should be a good time. Better than right now.
So
I think Nick's sitting on his floor right now with no chair, no desk.
I don't even own a chair. That's how bad it is. There's no chair inside of this house right now.
That's not good.
Well, I guess I can't say I don't own a chair, because there's chairs in my garage, but
you get the gist. Nick's on the damn floor
they're
right
in
now.
Plastic wrap, and there's no point in wrapping them and bringing them in. So yeah, you kind of get it. But we will be back in a couple weeks, so don't fret. We wanted to get one last pod in. We're going to talk about everything that happened in Week 7 of the NFL season. There were some big injuries. There were a couple signings. We've got just a lot of shit to run over. But I'm going to hit this in the beginning again. If you have not already subscribed to the Unwanted Opinions podcast, wherever you listen, or on every major podcast platform, you can also check us out on YouTube. When you hit subscribe, leave a rating and a review, 5 stars, of course, because you just love Jay and I so much. That's why you keep coming back and listening. So you should have already subscribed. Also follow us on any social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also just reach out to us, email unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. Many ways to get in touch with us and get our content. So there you go.
Again, I'm glad you do all that.
Yeah. I got it down, Jay. You know.
To a science.
Yeah. I guess one thing before we get into this NFL stuff, Jay, I don't know if you've seen that the NBA is trying to come back already on December 22nd.
I did, right around Christmas time.
That's insane. I mean, to think about the Heat and the Lakers, I mean, their last played October 11th, and to think they have to play in like 60 days, they barely get an off-season. I think it's less than 60 days, actually. You barely get an off-season. I mean, damn, that's tough.
And then shortening the season, I saw
by
that.
10 games, and because they just really want to, it's not this next year they really care about, it's the year following that they are going to try and make it back all the money that they're potentially going to lose from the last 2 years. I just think that's crazy. I think that's going to be really hard on some of these players, and it just doesn't give teams a lot of time to figure out first of all, your draft, because they think the draft is like the 18th of November. When's free agency going to start? Are you going to try and overhaul your roster and have a week to try and put that together before you're supposed to come in for training camp and then get all your guys? It's a mess. I'm glad I don't have to figure any of that out.
Exactly. Now it's just sit back and see what unfolds.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like the NFL and basically every damn sport this year.
Yeah.
Just sitting back and it's going to probably be a last-minute thing where you find out all the details and how it's going to work, and you just roll with it.
Yeah. Danny Green said today that if the season starts on December 22nd, don't expect to see LeBron for the first month.
That's very funny.
And I mean,
he might be right.
I mean, you could think other guys are going to be like that too. I mean, you think about guys who are coming off injuries that don't have a lot of time to work themselves back into shape, and I mean, I doubt there's a preseason, so it's going to be a mess. So
we'll see, though. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the playoffs were going to be a mess. And
true, in the bubble, and they figured that all out, and it worked, and it's just a very quick turnaround.
That it is. And a lot of the older players, it'll be interesting to see if they play right away.
But then you think about it, there's a lot of teams that didn't go to the bubble, and a lot of players that didn't play. Some guys that haven't played in a year.
Yeah, basically.
So you also got to think about those guys. Those guys are probably like, I want to play. Let's go.
I'm ready
like the sooner the better. But so I don't know. We'll just see what exactly happens. I think they're supposed to decide by this Friday officially, so you'll know a lot more what happens. So, hey, we'll see. All right. Jay, let's start actually with the Sunday night game. I know we normally start with the 1 o'clock games and then kind of work our way up, bounce around. But let's just start with last night's game because I thought it was one of the better games of the year. I just thought, I mean, those two quarterbacks, Kyler and Russell Wilson, dueling. I mean, what more could you ask for if you love quarterback play? And I mean, just two guys that have very similar game styles. Where I mean, you've got differences, but you kind of know what I mean. They're honestly almost the same exact build, and both got laser rocket arms and can move around and make people miss like it's nobody's job. But before I let you start on it, Jay, I just think the Seahawks should absolutely be shooting themselves in the foot because there were so many opportunities that they just blew where they could have won this game pretty easily. You think about that interception in the red zone, honestly, at the goal line, that DK Metcalf just tracked Budda Baker down, which is a phenomenal play onto itself because the Cardinals didn't end up scoring anything. But you look at that mistake. You also, which I thought was a terrible call, when Bobby Wagner got called for a personal foul when he hit the Dan Arnold on 3rd and 5, and then that was going to have to make the Cardinals punt, and then they go down and score a touchdown. And then also at the near the end of the game where they get, I can't remember exactly what penalty it was on the Seahawks when the Cardinals are kicking a field goal on 4th and 12, gives the Cardinals a first down. They end up scoring a touchdown instead of kicking that field goal. So it's a 3-point game instead of a 6-point game. So they just had so many opportunities where they just kind of blew it.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking to my nephew about last night. I said, well, I opened my mouth too soon, but I said, I still believe Russell Wilson. I told him, I was like, he's the best player in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says to me. He's the best player in the NFL. Then he comes out and has arguably one of his worst games up to date in his career with 3 interceptions. And I'm like, here we go. But the thing is, he threw 3 picks in that game, and they still were an overtime field goal away from winning.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that the Seahawks did wrong in this game, like you just kind of alluded to before, that they should really be upset with themselves about. But at the end of the day, they still only have 1 loss on the season.
And they're still a phenomenal team, no doubt
about it.
They're
in first place in the division. I mean, that division looks like every single team could go to the playoffs this year. And hats off to the Cardinals because what Kyler Murray did was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The end of the game was just back and forth and back and forth. And, like, I actually missed the way that the Cardinals won the game because it was getting late last night. And I saw the Cardinals turn it over. They give it to the Seahawks in overtime, and I'm like, okay, all Russell has to do is go about 30 yards. They kick a field goal, they're going to win. I went to bed. Wake up and see that the Cardinals won the game, and I'm like, how the hell? And then you go look at the play, and he just like throws a lob right over the middle to where I don't know who was in the wrong on that play. I don't know if Russell just got rushed and just tossed it.
Yeah, I don't know
pick.
Because Lockett was
because the guy wasn't
Lockett
even
was running
for
the wrong route or what it was, but yeah.
So there was a miscommunication there.
And now the play before he threw that pick, a touchdown got called back by a holding call by Seattle. So
I thought that was kind of a bad call, to be honest.
I did too. And so there's another thing where the Seahawks are like, well, damn, how many times do we have to win this game?
So all in all, that might have been the most exciting game of the whole weekend.
Jay, I want to tell you something. You know, there's probably a few people that are really pissed off at watching that game, and they're not Cardinals or Seahawks fans. Do you have any guess on who that would be? I can name a few people.
They would be pissed that aren't Cardinals or Seahawks
watching
fans.
That game, seeing 2 players succeed, one for each team.
God, I got no fucking idea. Who the hell are you talking about?
Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson, the Houston Texans organization, and their fan base. Because you got DeAndre Hopkins lighting it up for the Cardinals, and then you also have Dwayne Brown, who's one of the best left tackles still in the game, got traded away from the Texans as well, playing for Seattle, blocking for Russell Wilson. That could be a receiver for Deshaun Watson, and also a left tackle that they didn't have to give up 9 picks for, basically, and give him one of the biggest contracts in history of football in Larry Tunsil. So there you go. I just was thinking about that. 2 former Texans still playing at such a high level for other teams that the Texans basically just gave away for nothing.
Yep, that's why Billy O's no longer coaching.
Absolutely. But I just...
Quick, before we move on...
So if we have any Texans fans listening, I'm sorry that I kind of ruined your day.
And it's not over yet because y'all got smoked by the Packers.
Yes, they did.
But shout out Tyler Lockett. The dude looked
unbelievable,
like a monster yesterday. I mean, 200 yards, and did he have 3 touchdowns?
and all the catches he was making, like
I know.
the
I think he had
difficulty.
14 or 15 catches.
Yeah, I mean the one-handed catch to start the game, the toe tap for the touchdown. When he beat Patrick Peterson, who's one of the best corners in the league. I mean, he beat him multiple times.
So that was a fun game.
Yeah,
well,
it was.
That's a good one to start with.
For sure. All right, you pick the next one, Jay.
Well, we can start with the bummy Thursday night game, Giants and Eagles. There's not too much to say about it.
No, I will say this. I think since the first couple weeks of the season when Carson Wentz looked absolutely horrible, I thought he's played actually pretty well for the past few games. And this is the part where you can say he has nobody because of his 8 touchdowns this year, or I think all 8 of his touchdowns have been caught by undrafted players. And the offensive line is a workshop, and he is just doing this. I mean, he made some bonehead plays, but did you see that touchdown that he threw to Boston Scott right over the ear hole of the Giants defender? I don't remember exactly who it was, but those are the type of plays where you got to live with some of the bonehead shit that he does because he's just so talented.
Yeah, and on the other side, I actually think you could say the same thing about Daniel Jones and the Giants offense. I mean, they got a bunch of injuries. His offensive line's trash. He's out here running 80 yards and fumbling over his own feet trying to get in the end zone. But I mean, he's doing a lot by himself too. And
I was impressed by Daniel Jones.
I was too.
I actually thought he's played well all year. The Giants just suck.
They do. They don't have a lot of talent, really. Best player on offense, one of the best offensive players in the league, has been out since the beginning of the year. And Saquon, his offensive line hasn't been good since he's been there. That's one of the reasons why they got Daniel Jones so high. Their defense, they got some young guys. I don't think their defensive line is as bad as a lot of people think.
I think the interior of their defensive line is good. Their outside edge rushers are not.
I'll give you that. And then everyone behind them, you don't really have much you're working with there.
No.
So it's just all around that division's complete garbage. Yeah, and I don't know if they're all trying to race for the number 1 pick or what, but
they might be.
That game was not good. I mean,
no. And speaking of those two, that division, you know what next Sunday night is? It's Eagles-Cowboys.
Oh God!
I mean, and they're probably. I know they can flex a lot of these games, but that's such a big rating drawer. No matter who's playing and what their records are, that they'll probably leave it on Sunday Night Football. I would guess
they probably will because they have 2 of the biggest fan bases
in
the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. So they'll probably leave it for 2 of the worst teams in football. So if you would just want to stay in that, unless you had anything else to say about that game, we can stay in that division. Talk about Washington and Dallas, how abominable that game was too. I mean, the Cowboys' defense is maybe. I think the 2 worst defenses in football reside in the state of Texas, in the Texans and the Cowboys. Both of their defenses.
Jacksonville
awful.
has a lot to say about that too.
I don't know.
I read somewhere that Jacksonville.
I'm pretty sure the Cowboys are last in yards and points allowed.
I know
Jacksonville sucks too.
I mean, I think they've given up 6 straight 30-plus point games.
Who's that? The Jaguars?
Yeah, I think that's happened twice in NFL history.
Yeah, but I mean, the Cowboys let Kyle Allen pick them apart like it was nothing.
I know, man. I'm not defending.
And I know
the
the Jaguars are playing a rookie quarterback, but at least I think Justin Herbert is a legit quarterback in the league, and I don't think Kyle Allen is.
No, I'm with you. I mean, and the Cowboys, Skip Bayless came out and said this is the most, what he call it, I don't even know what he said, but he basically said it's the worst loss he's ever seen as a Cowboys fan, and he's embarrassed by it.
That's pretty bad. It was a terrible loss.
I mean, I don't know what the Cowboys are good at. I honestly think this team does not want anything to do with Mike McCarthy, and it's showing on the field.
And I try to tell you, Mike McCarthy's just not a good coach. You were on board with his hiring.
I
don't think he's ever been a good head coach in the entire and any point in his career.
I just think there's telltale signs. If you watch the game close, you see it doesn't look like guys are playing hard at all. The receivers are dropping passes that any receiver in the NFL should catch. You got Ezekiel Elliott, who I watched every game he ever played at Ohio State, and then I watched him when he got into the NFL. He prided himself on blocking and pass blocking. He's getting blown up by linebackers when they're coming at the holes. He's missing blocks. He's missing reads. He's allowing sacks. He doesn't look like he's running very hard. The defense can't stop a nosebleed. Their offense put up 3 points on Washington, who, granted, I actually like Washington's front seven a lot.
And I do
The
too,
back
but they're
end
not
has some
good.
problems. No, and all the playmakers that Dallas has on offense, I don't care what you have at quarterback, you should put up more than 3 points.
Agreed. I mean, there was just a report like last week that apparently some Cowboy players came out and said that that the Cowboys coaching staff doesn't understand preparation. Like, they're never prepared. They don't really know what they're doing. Is what obviously they were unnamed players, but still, I mean, to come out already after 6 games,
it's fucked up. The Cowboys got
their offensive line is bad. I mean, like, that was and I know they've lost Tyron Smith for the year. Zach Martin was out last week or yesterday too, but
they lost their center at the beginning of the year, I think, who retired.
Wow, it's just really, really bad.
I don't even know where to go with the Cowboys. I told you this last night. I think the Cowboys and the Falcons are mirror images of each other.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they both quit on their coaches. Second of all, they have so many playmakers on offense that you would think that any game they go into, they should be able to put up 20, 30 points. They can't move the ball on any team, either one of them. The defenses of both of them are complete garbage, and they find a way to lose every game they're in when they should win. 75% of the time they go in, you're like, they're the better team, and they just lose every time. I don't get it. And I think it showed again when they played each other, and it came down to a fucking horrible attempt of an onside kick and a huge Dallas surge late of a comeback. That's how close that game was between two god-awful teams.
For sure. I mean, now they're making Everson Griffin available in trade talks. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they are trying to sell high on some other teams and or other players. All they did was run the ball like 100 times. It felt like, and just move the ball left and right, up and down the field. I mean, there was no effort at all from the Cowboys. It was abysmal. And the only thing about this game that people really remember, other than that the Cowboys looked terrible, was the just cheap ass shot that John Bostic put on Andy Dalton.
Yeah. I don't have much and I don't even know where they go from here.
I don't either.
Their starting quarterback's probably going to be a 7th-round draft pick from
DiNucci?
James Madison, and their backup is Garrett Gilbert, who had an okay career at Texas and played pretty well in the AAF. That's who you're trotting out there.
If they don't have Andy Dalton at quarterback, do you think they will flex that game?
I don't know. Really,
are they really going to throw out the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football with a 7th-round quarterback?
No, I don't. I think they're going to play it out just like you said.
Yeah. I don't know.
And it's so embarrassing what that division's doing right now. They have 3. It's week 7.
Awful.
We finished week 7, and they have 3 teams with 2 wins and 1 team with 1. And really, those wins, I think, have all come against each other for the most part.
Yeah.
To where someone had to win a game.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Jesus.
Washington's have both come within the division. The Giants beat Washington. Yeah.
The Eagles just beat the Giants.
I think the Cowboys beat the Giants. So yeah, that's about right. They suck. All of them.
Yep, and I'm glad we got the NFC East out of the way early. Where do you want to go? Let's jump to the Browns and Bengals. I actually thought that was a pretty damn fun game to watch.
It was.
If I'm a Bengals fan, I like where the future is.
I'm
not firing my head coach at the 3rd year into his career, next year, whatever, because
Zach Taylor.
I like what Zach Taylor's doing. Dude, they got some players on offense. If they can find a way to shape up that offensive line and get some defenders, dude, they could be fun. T. Higgins is a damn good receiver in this league already as a rookie. Joe Burrow's proving he deserves to be here. Tyler Boyd, he's obviously been good the past couple of years. He's a pretty good number 2 wide receiver. You got A.J. Green, who's coming back off injury and showing you signs of what he once was. I mean, he's clearly not what he was in his prime, but he still gives you some big-time plays. Joe Mixon wasn't even in the game, I don't believe, yesterday, but
no, he was not.
He's been playing well up to this point. Giovanni Bernard, the screen machine, I'm going to start calling him. He does pretty well. It's just they got to protect Burrow, first of all. That needs to be draft night number 1 priority because you can see he can put up some points. The dude's like throwing 300, 400 yards every game, and the first priority this offseason needs to be protect him and then get him some help on defense.
Yeah, offensive
and then
line and then defense.
and then flip that. And the Browns came out slow. I think Baker started 0 of 5 with a pick, and on that pick, it sucks to say, OBJ tore his ACL and he's out for the year on that.
Yeah,
But
that's just
overall,
tough.
after that 0 and 5 start, he came out cooking. I think he threw over 20 straight
I
completions.
think he had like 18 straight completions at one point, and maybe it was 20. But
And then he comes down, and you're in position at the end of the game where you just need a field goal to tie it and go into overtime, I think. And he throws a dart to where it was such a perfect pass. I mean, the Bengals defender to Donovan Peoples-Jones was right there. I mean, he just turned his head around like a hair late, and it went right in Donovan Peoples-Jones' hands. Touchdown, game winner, walk off. Let's get out of here with the W. That was a fun game to watch, and I think the Browns fans should be excited. This is the best start they've had in the longest time I can ever remember, with a lot of talent on offense. And then you look at the Bengals, and yes, they're only 1-5-1. I could argue they're the best one-win team in the NFL right now. They've shown signs against good teams, and they've hung in there, and they've been beaten by, one score or less. They have a lot of upside, but I just thought it was a fun game to watch.
you really loved this Battle of Ohio, Jay.
Dude, it was a good game.
Did you know? And I don't want to go on a full Baker Mayfield rampage, but did you know he's 5-1 against the Bengals, and the rest of the NFL he's 12-18 as a starter?
I did not know that. I actually
Yeah.
would have guessed the 12 and 18 would have been lower, but
Yeah. So I mean, if he played the Browns every week, I think he'd win MVP every season.
Bengals.
If he played the Bengals every week, he'd be the MVP. He'd win Super Bowls. He'd be talked about all like this. But I mean, he absolutely needed this game. And I hate to say that teams are better without their best, like some very talented players, but I truly believe that the Browns are better without Odell Beckham. I really do. The moment he got there in Cleveland, it's honestly just been a complete disaster. I mean, because when he's in, and
and really, I don't even want to say it's any fault of Odell's because I know where you're going with
it's
this.
not. But he wants the ball. Every receiver wants the ball, and he's not shy about it. And I mean, he's a big brand. After his huge catch that he had that his rookie year on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, I mean, everyone knows his name. He dates Instagram models and parties with them in Paris and does all this shit. But I just really think Baker forces the issue when he's in, and I believe Baker is a better quarterback without Odell Beckham. I truly, truly do. So I think the Browns should try and sell high on him while they can.
I don't know how high you can sell on him when he just tore his ACL.
I mean, I don't really feel like that's. If this was 15 years ago, probably not. But I mean, you see players come back year after year from ACL injuries. I mean, you just saw it's a different sport, but Kevin Durant tears his Achilles and gets a max contract. I mean, the health and science is just so much better than it once was. So I truly believe they could get. They probably won't get a first round pick back for him like they gave up. But I mean, what you can get a 2 or another player, but I don't know. I don't think he should be there any longer, and I don't think he would be too upset about it if he was gone.
I don't either, but I don't know if they're looking to trade him. I don't even know if I would want to trade him. I see your point that they do force feed because I kind of brought up that same point with Devontae Adams last week, where when he's in the game, they just
I was actually going to ask you about that.
Force it. Yeah, I mean, I saw the dude caught 600 passes for 7,000 yards yesterday.
Yeah.
We can go there next. I mean,
he had a pretty good game.
I expected the Packers to come out and beat up on the Texans because of how they were embarrassed last week. If you would have had me bet one game on the over under and bet my life savings on it, it would have been that game, just because the Texans have not shown that they're a very good football team, and the Packers got humiliated last week, and you knew they had the team. I mean, they only had one loss. They were undefeated up until last week, and they were going to come out guns blazing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what they did. I mean, the Packers are the better team. They're better than the Texans. That's why after last week I said I'm not going to just come out and ridicule the Packers just yet. I mean, everybody has a bad game because I had just got on board with them being a good team.
Yeah,
finally.
and like I said, I mean, it happens. I mean, like I said, it's better to happen week 6 or 5 or whatever last week was than it is in 14 or 15 going into the home stretch. The Texans are just an absolute. It's atrocious down there in Houston. I mean, we kind of outline it every single week, but Deshaun Watson just feel terribly, terribly bad for the guy because they suck. They just flat out are bad. And I mean, he does almost everything he can weekly, and it's just not enough because their defense is bad. I told you, I think the two of the worst defenses reside in Texas with those two teams. So, I mean, that's it. But, I mean, props to the Packers.
Have you looked at the Texans schedule, who they've played so far?
It's been tough.
Dude, it's been brutal. Like one of the worst opening schedules
Steelers,
I can remember for
Chiefs,
any team.
Vikings.
I'll just go through it.
I know the Vikings are very good, but
Ravens, Steelers, Vikings and Jags, but then Titans, Packers, and then finally getting to a bye week. So you could argue that they've played one, two.
They probably have had the worst. They probably have the toughest schedule to start a season this year.
That's what I'm saying. So
for a team that's not that good, anyways.
On top of that.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, the Packers did this without Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari, so I think that should be a good sign for them. But they needed this bounce back game for sure.
Yeah, R.I.P. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
What more can he do?
Yeah. Dolphins fans are pleased every time they lose.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think they're sitting at the fifth pick in the draft right now from that Texans pick.
It could go downhill from there.
It could get higher, and the Dolphins are going to get a very good player in this draft. Two,
that's
maybe.
Another heartbreaker as a Texans fan. Yeah. Knowing, okay, so we're fucking horrible. Maybe we'll just finally get another good pick, and remember that we don't even have it.
Cap hell.
We gave that away.
And draft hell.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the blunder between the Falcons and the Lions.
Well,
what the fudge?
I told you, two teams that are used to blowing leads. One of them had to blow it. And it just happened to be the Falcons this week. I mean, the Lions are very good at doing this exact same thing, and they almost did. I wouldn't say they almost blew it. I mean, they were up with the Falcons driving at the end of the game, and then Todd Gurley scores. He tries to fault. He tried to pull the. It almost reminded me of Ahmad Bradshaw in the Super Bowl against the Patriots when he tried to pull up and then fell backwards into the end zone. This was kind of like that, where Todd Gurley tried to fall, but it was too late, and the ball crossed the plane on the side, and you can see the Lions players are like throwing their arms up, signaling touchdown. They're like, "We're trying to do this. Yes, get us the ball back." Because that's what Matthew Stafford was thinking.
I actually felt bad for Gurley because I think he understood what he needed to do. I think he knew he didn't need to score, and what had happened was he ran right up the middle, and so you're running into this pile of players between your own and the defense, and they hit him. But if you watch the replay, they hit him and then just let go and bounce off.
Yeah.
So Gurley's just expecting to run hard, get wrapped up by a bunch of them, fall forward, just fall down. And when they just jumped off of him basically and backed up, his momentum's already going forward, and it was just a sucky play.
Well, and because he still had to pick up the first down.
Yeah,
so then
exactly.
he picks up the first down. And then they're just like, okay, the Lions were probably told, hey, if he gets to this certain, like the safety, if he gets to you, let him go. And that's exactly what happened. But yeah, your point is, as a running back running up on the goal line, you're just used to lowering your shoulder and fighting through multiple bodies. But this time it was just a lot different. So yes, he understood, but
in his defense though, man, I kind of want to come to it hey, even if you fucking
get a
score,
stop.
I expect my defense to be able to stop a team from going 80 yards in a minute with no timeout.
64 seconds with one timeout, I think.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The Falcons are a blunder. This is their second straight year starting 1-6.
No, I didn't know that, but I remember last year they started 1-7. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Awful, man.
That was like the game from yesterday that I thought was going to be like a 40, like the Jaguars and Chargers kind of, there was 39-29. That's how I was kind of thinking the Falcons and the Lions were, because you're both of you guys have good quarterbacks with a lot of weapons offensively, and your defenses are bad. I figured that was going to be like a 35-40 ball game or something, and it was 23-22 or 22-21, whatever it was.
And the Lions have a couple of good young players stepping up offensively that you're finally seeing.
This was the first time. I mean, the Lions, I think for the first time they threw for over 300 yards all year.
But we all knew what Kenny Golladay was. But Hawkinson kind of looks like the former first rounder that they expected him to be. DeAndre Swift played a hell of a game yesterday.
Well.
So you got some young pieces on offense finally showing their draft ranking where they were picked and justifying it. And the Lions are sitting here at, what is their record?
3-3.
And they're a couple bad plays away from being 4-2, 5-1. So
yeah, they're a drop pass from beating the Bears in Week 1 from DeAndre Swift. They got absolutely murdered by the Packers. But yeah, I mean, other than that, their other 2 losses are close.
And they're playing hard. So maybe we're a little premature on Patricia. Let's see how they finish out. I mean, I think if they can finish the season around 9-7, they're staying. They're going to keep their job. And
I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to have to get to 10 or 11 wins to make the playoffs because we talked about how good the NFC West is. I mean, and in your own division, the Packers are 5-1, and so are the Bears.
I didn't say make the playoffs. I said just to keep their jobs.
I'm pretty sure the owner, I think it's Martha Ford, I think is her name. I know it's the Ford family. I'm pretty sure it's Martha, but she said they have to make the playoffs or they're done. Patricia
really?
And
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was playoffs or you're gone.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I mean,
I think
if they do even win 10 games and just miss on like a tiebreaker or something, what does that say? I don't know.
I just think that the Lions are actually playing hard again, and I think way too many teams fire their coaches too early before they can establish.
I agree with that.
The true, I mean,
but the Lions are one of those franchises that typically do it more than anyone.
Yeah, them and the Browns over and over and over.
I mean, Caldwell was 10-6, 9-7 in the playoffs in 2 of those 3 years, and they let him go. Now, I don't think Jim Caldwell's a very good head coach because he lost the Colts.
He did something with the Lions that a lot of people couldn't do.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next? Panthers Saints?
Sure. We'll go to that one first. That one was more exciting than Bills Jets, what I was going to say.
Yeah. That's about all we need to mention about the Bills Jets if you're fucking on board with that. But Panthers Saints, the Panthers, I like what they're doing, man.
I do too. I respect the shit out of the Panthers.
They have had playmakers on that offense for a couple years now that I don't know why, but Ron Rivera and that coaching staff just refused to use. I told you I thought DJ Moore was the best wide receiver in his class. Mm-hmm. Finally, they're unleashing him as the downfield threat and the yards after catch guy. Robbie Anderson, who maybe I was a little high on, but he's showing he can make some plays there in Carolina.
It was just like I said, I think he's a good player. You just called him an elite receiver.
Yeah. Like I said, I might have been a little overhyped on him. And then they're finally using Curtis Samuel. He's never going to be just some stud wide receiver.
And they ran him out of the backfield a couple times.
That's what I'm saying. He's a gadget guy. He's a guy that's like, just get him the ball and let him fucking make a play. And they're finally using him that way. I like what they're doing there with that offense. And again, they have some young pieces on defense that you should be excited about. They're just not there yet. They're very, very young defensively, and they're pretty damn young offensively. But I think they got Teddy Bridgewater on a pretty reasonable deal for what quarterbacks are getting paid in today's times that can run that offense the way they want it to be run. They have playmakers, so they're kind of in the same boat as who I was talking about earlier, where with the Bengals, where you got playmakers, you run a good offense, get them some help up front, and work on that defense to get it good. Yeah. I like what they're doing.
I do too, and for the Saints, I thought this was one of the better games for the Saints offensively because they didn't have Michael Thomas. They didn't have Emmanuel Sanders. I actually thought Alvin Kamara looks healthier than he has in a few years. I think he, right now, one of the best offensive weapons you could have in football. I mean, running and catching. He's
basically been that since he got in.
I mean, I know, but I thought last year he had a definitely a down year, and it came out, I think, after the beginning of the season, he played on a torn MCL or something, so obviously that definitely hurt his lateral quickness, but I thought the Saints played pretty clean offensively and defensively against a team. They had that one blunder where they gave up like an 80-yard touchdown to DJ Moore, but defensively, I thought they made the Panthers work for a lot of the stuff that they had. So maybe this is, and they should be getting Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders back. I think they will be back soon, so maybe that offense will start to click, and we'll see the Saints that we had seen for the past couple of years, at least in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looked like a good game between two pretty damn good teams. Yep. Even though the Panthers have a losing record, I
What are
mean,
they,
they've been competitive
3-4
all year.
now?
Yep, they're 3-4, and Saints are 4-2.
Yeah, and I think, and I believe, well, they play Thursday, so I doubt McCaffrey plays, but I think he practiced for the first time today, so we'll see if he's back, not this Thursday, but next week when they play. That obviously doesn't hurt to get one of your better offensive weapon back.
Yeah, I'll let you touch on the Bills and Jets and just
Yeah,
give
I
your
mean,
initial
I
thoughts.
actually, which was honestly kind of insane. The Bills only allowed 4 yards of total offense in the second half. I know it's the Jets, but even against anybody in today's NFL, to do that against somebody is pretty impressive. So maybe
And
this was a.
still only won by a score.
I mean, they pretty much controlled it. I think the Jets scored 10 points in the first quarter and barely made it past midfield after that. But I'm just saying, this was the Bills' defense had kind of been struggling all year. They'd given up a lot of points. Matt Milano was out. Tremaine Edmonds was out. Tre'Davious White had been out for a couple games. So all three of those guys were finally back. And so maybe their defense kind of gets back to what it was. Josh Allen, after his really hot 4-0 start, he wasn't going to keep up that pace forever. So I mean, he's
I don't
actually
know,
kind of
man. You were riding that train pretty high.
I said he's making those progressions what you like to see out of a young quarterback, and he still is. He's not putting up 450 yards and 6 touchdowns every game. I mean, nobody's doing that. I'm just saying. I mean, look at what the Chiefs just did. Mahomes only threw for 200 yards and I think one score, and they won by like 30. But no one's saying anything about Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen just didn't have that marquee game those past few games, but I thought he played okay. Just he still makes some of those bonehead moves.
Yeah, I think the Jets are clearly the worst team in the league and probably going to get the number 1 pick. So I don't have too much to say about the Jets. And it's a catch-22 at the Bills. Against
because
the
they
worst
played such
team,
against a bad team. Yeah.
I mean, against a horrible team, you only put up 18 points and won by a score, but at the same time, you're 5-2 and sitting pretty high in the AFC. So, I mean, you can look at it from both lenses. If that defense picks up and starts playing like the defense of last year, there's a good chance that they could do some damage or be a dark horse team in the AFC come playoff time.
Yeah.
But they got some work to do.
They do. They're not whole. They're not a complete team, but nobody is. We just talked about that. I mean, the Chiefs and the Broncos. I mean, the Chiefs scored in all 3 phases. They had a kickoff return, a pick 6. Obviously, they scored offensively as well. Le'Veon Bell got his first action with the Chiefs. I mean, just to add another weapon to the Chiefs' already loaded offense. And just a weird game for the Broncos. I mean, just some. Did you see the flea flicker that Melvin Gordon
attempt of a flea flicker
throws over Drew Lock's head, and they turn it over and give the Chiefs the ball back within like the 20-yard line, and just really
I feel Drew Lock on that one. He looked at Melvin Gordon like, bro, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, he was like, are you shitting me, man? Like, this is what you do? I mean, they were just trying everything to try and keep up with the Chiefs. I mean,
clearly the better team.
And they can't. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs for a reason. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and the Broncos still are a team that is plagued by injuries. I know they've gotten some guys back over the past couple weeks, but, I mean, this team is just decimated.
Yeah, it showed. And they made Drew Lock look like a young, inexperienced quarterback. They beat him up all night long.
Like you said about Joe Burrow, the Broncos need to invest in that offensive line more. I mean, they've gotten him some weapons. I know half of their defense is basically on injured reserve, but John Elway needs to get an offensive line if they think Drew Lock's their guy.
Agreed that I believe that's their biggest weakness.
Yeah.
49ers Patriots. Fucking Cam gets benched.
Whoa.
49ers just ran
49ers
away
look like the
with
49ers
this.
from last year. Man, they did. Dominant run game. They put anybody back there, and he looks like the best running back in the league. I mean, Jeff Wilson.
And anyone of them
awesome.
except for Jerick McKinnon. Let me put that out there because some bitch ain't doing nothing on my fantasy. So
yeah, would he get you 1 point?
Who knows? He might have got me -1 if we're fucking being honest with each other. But the 49ers just whooped the Patriots all day long. Cam looked so bad. I mean, inaccurate all day long. On third downs, he was throwing 2 and 3 yards behind the first down.
I mean, he was throwing
behind guys.
dirt.
Yeah, where guys couldn't catch the ball and turn up field. I mean, very, very bad play from Cam. Clearly, he gets benched for Stidham,
Mm-hmm.
who then throws another pick himself. The Patriots defense, this is the worst tackling I've ever seen by a Bill Belichick coach team.
Yeah.
The entire time I was watching that game, I was just thinking, missed tackle, missed tackle. Why are they not wrapping up? How are they just bouncing off of him
Missed
and being coached by
assignments
Belichick?
and not acting like they not filling their lanes and just doing typical things that Patriot teams do. And I don't want to make a lot of excuses because Tony Dungy said it last night. Bill Belichick is the best problem solver that this game's ever seen. But he's like, he may have two problems that even he can fix. And they did have a lot of guys opt out because of COVID. They were the team that got hit the most by that. And a lot of them were some of their best defensive players, Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung. To name a few, but there were some other ones. But there you go. I mean, they just look awful. They're out of sorts. They're out of whack. It does not look like a Patriots team. And Cam Newton looked good for those first 3 seasons, or for 3 seasons, 3 games. Since he got COVID and came back, I mean, he looks like the Cam that was injured last year. He looks like the Cam that's not confident in himself anymore. I mean, just his throwing motion to me just looks different than it used to be. He just doesn't have like any zip on the ball anymore. So I don't know. Maybe those first 3 games were a little bit of fool's gold for the Patriots and Cam Newton.
I don't know what the hell's happening, but I do know that Brady's probably sitting back laughing right now because he looks like he's getting the better end of this deal.
And he should be, because
we'll go right to that game.
I can't even say one bad word about Tom Brady from yesterday. I mean, if he plays like this and that Buccaneers defense plays the way they do, I mean, they are a scary team. I can't even. And they're adding Antonio Brown. As long as he shuts his mouth and just plays football, that offense is scary. And that defense, I thought that defense was not going to be nowhere near this good. They're damn good, man. They get pressure. Todd Bowles, again, you said it last week. I think Jay's the best defensive coordinator in the league. I would agree with that. I think that guy definitely deserves another head coaching opportunity. I mean, he got stuck with the shitty Jets organization. So, but I won't say one bad word against the Buccaneers today. You won't hear it from me. I can't. I'd look stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they played a hell of a game. Brady looked good. He didn't do anything wrong that I could see. They have, out of nowhere, their run game is just fantastic, and it looks like nobody wants to tackle LeGarrette Blount. I actually think that was, or that's I mean, fucking A, he looks like LeGarrette Blount.
He's similar. I mean, Brady played with him in New England, so he likes those kind of big backs.
I actually think it was a pretty damn good game up until about 8 minutes in the fourth quarter. It
was 24-20. And
I think the biggest play of that game was there was a 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 14.
It was 3rd and 13.
That the Buccaneers had with around 8 minutes left. And the Raiders offense had been kind of getting in a rhythm up to that point. They get a stop on 3rd and 13. The Raiders have a chance to take the lead in the fourth quarter, less than 10 minutes left. And this is kind of what I was alluding to with LeGarrette Blount's twin and Leonard Fournette, where Tom Brady checked it down. I mean, 8 yards behind the first down marker, and Fournette just runs forward, and it looks like people just take their time getting up to him because they don't want any part of him. He just splits the defenders. I think 3 people had an angle on him, and he just runs right through them for the first down. And I'm like, that was the ball game, because then the Buccaneers go down and score, and the rest is history. I mean, they just, after that, put the brakes on the Raiders and won by 25 points.
Yeah,
it was a 4-point game with 8 minutes left.
Yeah, and I mean, the Raiders also could have, on that 4th and 1 with inside the 15-yard line, I thought they also probably could have tried to go for it and score there too instead of kick the field goal. But
I thought the same thing.
I was like, the Buccaneers have really you haven't really shown that you can stop them so far yet this game, and you're settling for a field goal after your offense was kind of just rolling up and down the field to that point in the second half at least. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I won't say anything. But what do you think about the Antonio Brown signing? Because I mean, neither you nor I are fans of this guy, because I just think he's been given way too many opportunities. I think he's proven that he's just honestly not a very good person. I mean, he's a great, fantastic football player. Don't get me wrong, but I find it hard to root for guys like that.
I'm with you. I told you I don't think he deserves another chance to play in the league, and yet here we are. Actually, I think he's going to finally keep his mouth shut.
I kind of do too.
He kind of had a rapport with Brady when he went to the Patriots for that short stint,
I think it was
but
only one game.
I believe obviously Brady was cheering to come get him on the Buccaneers, and I think he's finally on a team that's going to win some games, and he's just going to be able to go out there and play, and he's not going to demand a lot of double teams because they have so many offensive weapons. How can you double them?
You
So
can.
I think he's going to find a lot of one-on-one situations, and he's in a pretty good situation there in Tampa Bay. And I think they're 5-2. They're going to keep on winning, I do believe. So I think he's actually going to keep his mouth shut and just play the game because I think he finally realizes this might be my very last chance I have to play.
And I mean, he may not get that long of a chance because I think his court case is very soon. And Bruce Arians said if he is found convicted, then he will no longer be with us. So he better hope, not only for his football life, but also his personal life, that that all gets settled in a manner in which he is okay with.
Yeah, but overall,
That's all I'll say on
I
that.
might have been wrong on the Bucks. They look damn good and scary,
Yeah,
and look like the way they play ball, they could beat anybody.
right now they can, and right now they look pretty good. And this is some. I think Pat McAfee said something about this where once the Colts moved on from Peyton and the Patriots now have moved on from Tom, they go to a different situation and just are absolutely fueled by that. And you saw Peyton set all kinds of records with the Broncos and go to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. I mean, I know Brady's older than what Peyton was when he got released by the Colts, but it's a similar situation where the Broncos had tons of weapons offensively, and so do these Buccaneers. So there's a lot of
And a stellar
similarities
defense.
and stellar defenses. You're right. So there's a lot of similarities in these two things, and I think everyone knows. I mean, you can read between the lines. Brady and Belichick are both trying to prove that they were the bigger reason why they had success. So there you go.
And right now, Tom has the upper hand.
Agreed.
There's only 2 games left. We got Steelers Titans. That was a hell of a ball game. I mean, Big Ben's face at the end of the game should tell you all you need to know
It
about
tells you
that one.
it says everything.
So if you hadn't seen the game, the Steelers won by a missed field goal late by Goskowski on the Titans.
He's missed
they lined
6
up.
kicks already.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, I think he missed in one game like 4, didn't he?
3. I think it was 3.
Okay.
It was 3 field goals and 1 extra point, so it was 4 total kicks in one game. So you're right.
Yeah, it was just he nails some big ones and misses a lot of them apparently.
Yeah, but
I mean, the thing was the Steelers were murking them the
rolling.
entire first half. I mean, they looked like the superior team. They made the Titans look like they shouldn't be nowhere near undefeated. And then, what do you know? Typical Steelers, they kind of let their foot off the gas in the second half.
I thought it was more typical Titans because the Titans just don't get blown out, man. They play everyone close and they're always in games. I will never count the Titans out as long as Vrabel's there.
I mean, that's a good point to make. I just thought I didn't know what the fuck Big Ben was doing in the second half.
I didn't either. He made some really bad decisions.
Some of the interceptions, I'm like, dude, what are you seeing here? I mean, he threw into like double or triple coverage on one of them.
He threw into triple coverage into the end zone to
that
Juju.
Was the other one. Yep, that I was like, why? Just get your points, man. But I don't know what he did in the second half or what they were planning on doing in the second half, but it didn't work, and the Titans marched their way back, and hats off to them. They never felt like they were out of the game, and it showed. They marched, and I don't feel like you kind of just mentioned, I don't feel like they ever feel like they're out of the game.
They don't.
When
I don't think they don't operate that way. I don't think Brable lets them. And I feel like a lot of the guys on their team hold themselves accountable to that. Like, hey, like no matter what this is, we're always in this game. And they showed that because they still played their style of football, because they still used Derrick Henry a lot, and that's how they're so successful. They didn't just completely abandon the run game when they went down like 27-10, I think it was, at one point. I mean, they stuck with it. They stuck with going to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and what they do. So I just been like you said, the Titans being within the Colts division, it kind of makes me not want to root for them, but it's hard to not root for these guys because I just like a lot of their players and I love the way they play.
Yep, I'm with you. What did you think about the Jaguars Chargers,
I
my
mean,
man? I
the
know I'll
Jags
let you go with this.
the Jags are poo poo, but I think I'm going to just text you this every single week. I really wish the Colts would have traded up and tried to draft Justin Herbert. I really do, because you know how big of a fan I was of him coming out. Or I loved him at Oregon. I still really like him. He's already one of my favorite players in the league. I mean, he just makes plays every week that it's similar to Joe Burrow in the sense where, I mean, he's a rookie already doing this in the league right now. I think Joe Burrow's getting a little bit more pub than Herbert is, but I think Herbert's doing very similar things. Just some of the throws he makes, like, just are incredible. Like, he hits guys in stride, running down the field. I mean, he fits them into tight windows. He's got the mobility to just get out of a lot of plays, and I just really love Justin Herbert.
He set a Chargers record this during that game.
He's
You know what
setting
it was?
records all over the place for the past few games. I mean, he was the first rookie to ever throw 4 TDs on Monday Night Football. I mean,
But he set a Chargers record last week. First time in franchise history.
which
66 rush yards.
that's the most ever by a quarterback.
Yeah, I read that too, and I was like,
Wow.
well, all right then. Yeah. So he ran for 66 yards.
I guess you
and
think
that is
about it, the
most
last couple quarterbacks they had were Breeze and Philip Rivers, two guys that are not known to push the pocket really.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, Herbert looks like he's here to stay. He looks like he can play in the league, and he's exactly what today's NFL looks for. He's big, he's strong, he can run, he has a huge arm, he can make the throws, and then it's all about being able to learn NFL defenses and
And he's
extend
smart.
the plays.
He's very smart.
And he's not selfish, so he's willing to do whatever. Yeah, the Jaguars, I mean, they put up 29 points, but they're just not a very good football team. They don't have, we've been saying, they don't really have weapons on offense. And I know you can find undrafted rookies that play well, and I will say that the running back for Jacksonville, I'm blanking on his name right
James
now,
Robinson
has played pretty damn well.
He's played out of his mind.
He's probably your best player on offense right now, and he was an undrafted rookie. You got some receivers who I think they have a couple good number 2 wide receivers, no real number 1.
And I think D.D. Westbrook just tore his ACL, so I think he's done for the year. He was
Their
another
offensive
one that
line isn't very good.
we had an injury from.
Gardner Minshew, we've both said, is a career backup. He shouldn't be a starter.
No.
A good career backup. Let me say that. I believe he's exactly what you want in a backup quarterback. I would be pissed if he was my starter. Their defense we talked about earlier is atrocious, giving up 30-plus points, I think 6 straight times. And they haven't even had that rough of a schedule.
No, they haven't. It has nothing to do with, because we've got through all the games, but the Dolphins announced that Tua will be starting after the bye. Now they're 3-3. I think they were second in the division currently behind Buffalo, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was honestly playing just about as well as, I mean, he was around based off of how he was playing, around the 15th best quarterback in the league, which that's probably.
I still believe that's why they benched him.
That's probably what he can top at. And I was going to ask you what you feel, because I think they're sensing a lot of pressure because of how successful Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are having, the success that they're having right now, to kind of just, they're like, okay, we know that we drafted him this high. He's going to be our guy. Fitzpatrick isn't going to get us to where we want to be, so let's just throw Tua into the fire now, because get him his experience. We're 3-3. The offensive line has played better than maybe what we thought. So I think it's a little too early for Tua. I really do, because
I don't think they should have pulled him, man.
I agree with you, because I was never as big as a fan of Tua as a lot of people. And Jay, I know you weren't either, but I just don't think he's going to have the success that the other 2 rookie quarterbacks are having right now. I don't
either, and I'm still waiting to hear. Have anybody in the Dolphins organization come out and said exactly why they're making the switch? Because if they did,
I think it's all just speculation.
I might be able to get behind it depending what they say, but I just think
I just gave you my theory, so that's my theory on it.
I think they pulled him because he was doing too well, and they're still a young team, and obviously they have Tua for the long haul. So even if he does play pretty bad, they're still going to go forward with him. I think they wanted 2 high draft picks, and I truly think Fitzpatrick was just playing too well and they were winning too many games to get there. And this is not going to go over well in that locker room because, yeah, Tua is the future, but they got a lot of guys that are older that are wanting to win right now. And Fitzpatrick was doing that. Everybody loves Fitzpatrick on that team. He was the quarterback. He was a leader. The veterans were behind him. They were winning ball games, changing the culture of the team. And then all of a sudden, they just pull the rug out from under
them. It was
them,
a very weird time to do it. I agree.
I agree.
It was just I think it's kind of a bad look, honestly.
I think you're going to see more veteran players.
I don't know how much of this
hard.
was a Flores decision as what it was with ownership.
I don't either because Flores to me seems like the kind of coach, and I could be wrong, but I think he seems like the kind of coach that is going to play the better player.
And I agree
right
with that.
Now, Fitzpatrick's probably the better player, and they were winning games, and he probably behind closed doors was like, "What the fuck, man? Like this, you brought me in here to coach and put the right guys on the field and win ball games, and now you're making me take out the quarterback who's doing that and start the rookie." And Tua might come in and play well, but there was no reason to pull him now.
No, I don't think so either. I really don't.
Why not let Tua sit behind Fitzpatrick the whole year? I mean, you're not going to trade him. He's your future, clearly. It's shown that it can work where you sit a guy and let him learn the offense. It happened recently with Patrick Mahomes, and it worked out great. Look at what Kansas City's doing now. I mean, this could have been the exact same situation where you got a veteran guy who takes you, I don't know,
because
8 and 8, 9 and 7.
The Chiefs made the playoffs that year, and then they were like, okay, we know that this is our ceiling with Alex Smith. We want to push that, and we'll put in throw at Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't think Tua's going to be anywhere close to Patrick Mahomes, but I get your point, too, where Tua's ceiling is probably higher than Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would definitely say that's the case. But, yeah, I just feel like it was weird and just strange.
And clearly, Fitzpatrick was, one, shocked by it.
He was not happy. He was
two,
not happy.
Very upset.
And I don't blame him.
I don't either.
He did nothing to deserve to lose the job right now when he did, the way he did.
And I'm sure they told him, and he was very understanding. The dude's very smart, that when he got there, clearly he's going to groom Tua, and it's going to be Tua as the future. He knew that. But to pull him now, I mean, if he would have started off 1-5, 1-6, and they were just playing horrible, okay, he probably understands, yep, now's about the time I'm probably going to be benched. But when you start off kind of slow and he's been eating the last few weeks and they're winning games, of course he's like, why now?
And now what happens, and I'm not saying this is going to, but I mean, what if Tua loses like 3 or 4 straight games? Do they go back to Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, what the fuck? Do you go back to Ryan?
Does ownership allow Flores to say, okay, now you can just make your decision and play the better guy currently? I don't know. That's
do they pawn it off on Flores and try and say, why'd you make
just really just get so divulged into the decisions. It really kind of haunts what you're able to do.
Yeah, I mean, you'll notice the good organizations, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Patriots. The Patriots are a little different because
but I don't think Kraft tells Belichick what to do. Clearly,
yeah, so
I mean, they let Brady walk.
Get the guys in that they believe. They hire the guys, and they hire them for a reason because they believe in them. And they basically say, "Okay, I'm the owner. I hire you. You make the decisions. The football, you're here for a reason. The GM picks players.
And if you're not doing your job, I'll replace you."
Exactly. But until you prove me wrong, I'm going to stay out of it. I trust you. I hired you for a reason. That's what the good organizations do. Bad organizations, a la the Redskins, the Jets. People like that, the owner wants all their hand.
The Cowboys, and I don't think the Cowboys are a bad organization. I just think Jerry tries to do too much. I felt like Jim Irsay tried to do a little bit too much before he hired Chris Ballard, but even with the Colts. But there's a lot of people that do it, and I mean, some of these owners, their kids start to get in their dad's ear and say, "Hey, this is cooler. Let's do this." Or, "This guy's cool. Look what he just did on Instagram. Let's draft him. You need to play him." And they listen to him because you do. It happens. I mean, Bill Polian was letting his son draft guys the past couple of years. That's why his draft picks sucked, and Irsay fired him.
Well,
so
I think there's enough said on that. Hey, big weekend of college football.
Yeah, your boy Justin Fields looked pretty good, man.
Yeah, couple of upsets. Penn State got upset by IU.
That was a hell of a play by that quarterback.
I'll ask you this: do you think he scored?
I do, actually.
I don't. I actually thought,
You
even
thought
when I
that
watched
was
the
out of
replay
bounds?
that I thought the ball. I thought, one, he was out of bounds, and two, the ball touched the ground before it crossed the plane. But I
I
get
thought
why
it
the
was like
rest.
simultaneous as it happened, so I would have said yes if I
I
was
mean,
the
the call on
official.
the field was a touchdown, so I
Yeah,
understand why they left it be that way. And when you look across the field at Penn State, it's like you have the superior team. I mean,
no
your
doubt.
players are better than theirs pretty much all across the board. So you shouldn't have even been in that situation. So I don't feel bad for you. So IU with the big upset. Wisconsin smoked Illinois.
Yes, they
I
did.
mean, Alabama's rolling. Mac Jones. I don't know if he's the next best thing, but I read somewhere that
It's
like
pretty good.
Alabama has only had like I don't even. I'm just throwing out a number. They've only had maybe 6 or 7 career 400-yard passers in a game, and Mac Jones has like 3 or 4 of them. I mean, he's killing for them right
Do
now.
you
Najee
mean
Harris,
quarterbacks in their history, or
yes, like
okay,
a quarterback in their history throwing for 400 or more yards in a
okay,
game. Because in college, that's pretty hard to do.
yeah.
Um, Clemson rolling. I mean,
Michigan got a big win over
fun.
Minnesota.
Yep. I mean, and they look dominant. They got a
They did.
quarterback, and I forget his name, that is finally Jim
Their
Harbaugh's
defense looked pretty
handpicked
good
guy.
too.
He's a big guy, and they look like their offensive line is dominant. They look like the team that Jim Harbaugh came there to coach, where I know it's only one game, but someone that can just line up and run the ball and then run that play action and make plays off of it with a good defense.
Boilers
Ohio
got a win.
Purdue got a win over Iowa
Yeah.
without Rondell Moore.
Yeah, David Bell looked really good. The receiver.
Yeah, he's killing.
If nobody knows who that was, that's why I said his name. But he looked pretty damn good. I think you got people saying Rondell who.
Yeah, chill out. He's still the best receiver on that team.
I'm just kidding.
So it's just a fun week of college football. I'm glad the Big Ten's
glad it's
back.
back. I'm glad Big Ten football's back. It was cool to see. It was. We needed
I
it.
think the biggest question mark right now to me is Miami. They came out of the gate smoking hot, and then they go play a 1-win Virginia team and barely squeak a win out. So I don't know who they are. They only put up 19 points, where in the beginning I thought they had one of the best offenses in college football. I don't know what's going on. I mean, historically, Virginia does year after year have a pretty well-coached defense, but I mean, with the guys that the U has and with the way they showed out in the beginning, I expect more than 19 points. That's all I got, man.
All right. I don't have much to say on that either. So let's get out of here on that. So we will be back in a couple weeks, better than ever. So just look forward to that show. And
I'll give you a pretty good one to sail off into the sunset with for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I agree. So we will sign off until then.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time.